Annemarie Alf, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to have you on. So I spoke with a good buddy, Craig Barclay, and he recommended you come on. He figured you'd bring some really good value to the listeners out there. So I was excited to get you in the studio, and I'm looking forward to our combo.
Yeah, no pressure.
None at all.
Thanks, Craig.
Not at all. So what I like to do first when I get with new guests is I like to get a little bit of background info. So why don't you just give me a little bit of background on you, where you're from, how you got into the field, what it is you do now.
Yeah. So I'm a doctor of physical therapy and strength and conditioning coach, and I own a facility, Olympus Movement Performance, and we've kind of created a niche with young athletes, middle school, high school, college, primarily working with soccer athletes, and it's come to be more recently like just ACL injuries. We see a little bit of everything, but in the recent years, it's just like the number of ACL injuries is increasing time and time and time again. It's kind of ironic because when I first started my career as a physical therapy assistant, the physical therapist I worked under also saw a lot of ACLs. So the whole thing has kind of come full circle now that I have my own facility as well. So yeah, it's pretty crazy.
It's funny, I just recognized you. So I saw you you work with Kiana?
Yes. Yep.
So I saw you at the last game against the Rebels.
Uh-huh.
You were there, yeah?
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
I just remembered it. Now I was like, I
Yes.
put a face to a name.
Yeah, yep.
I know. So super unfortunate. So, that being said, I've always heard that girls in particular obviously have a different body structure than men, which is more likely for them to have ACL injuries. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly true. Female athletes in the research are 3 to 7 times more likely than males to have an ACL injury. Honestly, it feels like recently those numbers have even gone up higher. There hasn't been any recent research to show the numbers going up higher, but the volumes that we're seeing alone in our clinic are 75% female athlete and 25% male athlete. So, and there's many reasons for that. Female anatomy is one big one. Muscular structure imbalances, number 2, and then the list can kind of go on and on after that. I personally think a lot of it has to do with load management, overload, overtraining, but then under-recovering on top of it. So that's a lot of the education that I'm working on going forward to try to implement and educate parents and coaches alike.
And I agree with that when it comes to overload because I tore my ACL, so I'm in the club.
I'm in the club too.
I was a little older.
Been there, done that.
I didn't do it while I was playing as a youth athlete. I was actually really good. I only had bad ankles at first, and I learned how to strengthen them.
Yeah.
And I had bad fingers because when I played football, I was a DB, and I jammed a lot. So you just jam them a lot. But other than that, I had no breaks, no serious injuries. When I started playing flag football as I got older, because I wanted to continue competing.
Yeah.
That's where all my injuries came.
Yeah.
And I remember
over 30, over 40 is something too.
We still think in our minds that we can run like we used to, but we can't.
Yeah.
And it takes a whole different type of warm up to get ready to play.
Yes.
But I remember when I did mine, it was because of the load. It was at the end of a 2-day tournament. It was like one of the last games that we had played, and I was exhausted, and you're still going full. And then as I went out, I just did a plant, just put my foot out in front of me, no big deal, and it popped. I heard it pop, and that was that.
Yeah.
So I totally understand.
Yeah,
that
so
kind of thing.
to kind of exactly that point, what we've been seeing the last 2 years, I've specifically noticed a significant increase in the April to May time of the athletes tearing. And I think it's with the female athletes specifically coming out of club season, going straight into high school, going straight back into club, and then a lot of the higher level athletes are pushing to make the playoff run, which is happening right now, end of June. And so by April and May, their bodies are just like, we can't do it anymore. And I've seen, I think last year there was 7 to 8 in the month of April and May combined that we saw at our facility alone. And this year it's been double that. It's been 14 to 16, I think. And just in those 2 months, and now all those athletes coming in, just having surgery and starting the process again.
So then we know that that's the thing that's happening. It's happening more often than not. What can parents do to help their kids prepare for that? Are there strengthening things that they can do to kind of prepare? Obviously, watching the load. Is it something that maybe some of these clubs need to be looking into in terms of what their loads are? Is there tracking things that they can do? What can a parent that's watching this do to help their son or daughter be less susceptible to getting an ACL injury?
Yeah, I think this is the hardest part is there's not one simple answer. Because if there was, we would all be doing it, I would hope.
Right.
So I do think it's a combination of things for sure. I think one of the most underutilized areas that needs to be implemented is strength training. especially in the female athletes. I don't think enough female athletes are truly strength training to help reduce injury risk. Basically what they found is the quad muscle tends to be very strong in the female athletes, but the hamstrings and glutes are much weaker. So there becomes a muscle imbalance. The hamstring acts very similar to the ACL in that it prevents the lower shin bone from sliding forward. So if we can get the hamstring firing at quicker rates, it basically helps protect the knee structure. So I think that's the number one thing, is every club implementing a structured strength training program. The other piece of that the research has really shown to be super strong is plyometric training, specifically landing positions. So athletes learning how to land on two legs correctly, learning how to land on one leg correctly, learning how to land on one leg and then jump into another one leg. And if they can just dial in those mechanics, the injury risk would be significantly reduced in the non-contact injuries. There are a few clubs that are implementing this on some level. I think even that could be better and improved, but there's some clubs that aren't implementing it at all or are implementing it correctly. And so if I think that piece can get dialed in, that would be huge. And then going into the load management piece, I think that's kind of the next step that all the clubs need to look into, because there are ways to do it. There's GPS tracking devices that U.S. Soccer uses, that every professional soccer team uses, that we should be bringing into the club level. The challenge with that, the difficulty with that, is you have to bring in a staff person that understands all that data that comes along with it. And it would be a lot of work. It might not even be a one-person job. I've educated myself on it on the very basic level to understand load periodization throughout the weeks, months, year, but I'm not an expert. There's sports science experts out there that know all these things like in and out. But I think for me as a physical therapist working with all these athletes, like I've gone above and beyond to at least understand the basic levels of load management and what that should and could look like, especially coming out of the rehab process. For sure, very dialed in there. The I don't know that there's enough answer yet, but that's where the research needs to start studying and looking at. But we've got to get more like tracking devices on these athletes for sure.
So you mentioned those two aspects, which I think for most of us who have been with athletes and are athletes, we know kind of that's the region is learning how to jump, so plyometric training. So I have a few questions based on that, and then also implementing the load or making sure you're. So the first thing, in terms of plyometric training, so I started Jaden. I didn't really start Jaden plyometric training until she was probably, and that's the first thing that we started with before weights. We started with that. She was already pretty strong because soccer players are always running, they're always doing stuff. But I wanted to get her lateral mobility good. I wanted to get her be able to learn how to bound and hop and do all that kind of stuff. But I waited till she was probably about almost 14, 13 and 14. And the reason why I did that was not anything scientific because I didn't know. It was just a gut instinct that I wanted to allow her body to continue to grow naturally. And then I wanted to then start to expose it. As she got bigger and stronger, I wanted to start making her to be able to understand how to jump. So we do a lot of box jumps and landing on them as well, bounding one leg. So we do all that stuff, and she's done that for a long time. And my little one does that now, my son. So how early is too early, or what's a good time to start, in your opinion, to start training your athletes how to jump and bound?
Yeah. I love this question because there's still the stigma out there that young kids should not be lifting weights. And
I was in that. Because I didn't know.
Right.
So you're
of
like
course.
on the safe side.
Yes. Oh, well, it's better to be on the safe side. Right. So that's fine. But as long as it's supervised and they're moving well and they're moving correctly, there's not really an age that you could put it to. And I think of gymnastics athletes. If you look at their sport and what they do, it's continuous plyometric and like strength building exercises from a very young age. Right. I don't want to go down that path of discussing them because they have a lot of problems too in different areas. But I don't think there's like a set age that's too young. But I do think it's very safe to start like around 12 years old, like prepubescent, 12, 13, 14. And I'm kind of going with the 12-year-old number because we've seen, unfortunately, in this last 2 months, 3 athletes under the age of 12 or at 12 years old that are tearing their ACLs. So if they're tearing their ACLs at 12, we probably should have already been teaching them how to squat properly, even if it's body weight, how to jump off of a box, how to jump onto a box. Right. And I'm talking low-level plyometrics for a 12-year-old. It's literally learning the skill and the positions, not then doing excessive bounding or plyometrics because bounding or like single leg bounding. I think those are fantastic, but maybe not at 12, maybe 13, 14, 15, kind of waiting, teach the basics, teach the foundations, and then building on it. But the same with strength training. It's very safe to start 10, 11, 12-year-olds on a strength training program. Just the load is lower, but the movement and the skills is the same as what we do when we're 40, what we do when we go to college athletics. I mean, Division I college soccer, they're all lifting weights. They're using barbells. They're putting plates on them. They're doing plyometrics. So we can start it at a young age as long as it's supervised with an educated person. That's the key.
The main reason why I chose not to was, I wanted their bodies to develop. And I think that was the main thing, is that I wasn't sure about growth plates. Like, hey, and you mentioned gymnasts.
Yeah.
The one thing gymnasts have in common is they're all tend to be small on the small side.
Yeah.
And so my question is, are they all just small, or are they small because they started lifting and doing these things, which they got very strong, but it kind of stunted their growth? Like, that was always a concern for me. Do you know much about that?
Yeah, there's the research has, again, like come out and said that was kind of false. It doesn't stunt your growth at all. I think just in the sport of gymnastics, it tends to favor smaller humans because of the demands of the sport. I actually worked in China with the Chinese Olympic team in gymnastics, and they're all super small. Like, I looked like a giant compared to them, but the federation selects, like, based on genetics, they select small, like, kids from literally the time they're 5 to 6 years old. And
so
then
they're probably looking at the parents to see
they're
what
looking
they
at the
look like as
parents,
well.
yeah.
Okay.
So, but even in America, we don't do that, not that I know of anyways. They still tend to be small, but if you watch college gymnastics, NCAA gymnastics, most of those gals are not actually that small. They're super strong, super, like, ripped, and they're 5'4", 5'6", even 5'8".
Average height for women.
Average height for women, exactly. I just think, the ones that maybe you see in just the Olympic level, which is not the end-all be-all, tend to be on the shorter side. But we're trending away from that as well. The girls are definitely getting a lot taller and stronger as well. So
that's good
and
to
older. It used to be everyone was 16 years old, so of course they were small.
Right.
But now, I think last Olympic cycle, our average U.S. age was 24.
Oh, that's good.
So it's
they're
changed
they're more
tremendously
into their adult bodies.
Yes,
at that point.
exactly. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
So then the second part of that was tracking.
Mm-hmm.
On the club side, and also when you talk about plyometrics, just to finish that section, plyometrics, you said a lot of the clubs, they don't have those things.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I never relied on a club or an organization to build that into my child. I knew as an athlete growing up, and I didn't start doing that stuff until later because we just didn't have the means nor the knowledge.
Right.
So I didn't understand what it was. But as soon as I learned it, I was like a sponge. Like, when you get a little bit of money, a little bit of income because you have your own job and no real responsibilities.
Yeah.
You can buy your stuff.
Start learning.
All of my stuff I bought was speed training, jump training, like books, all that kind of stuff because I wanted. So I was fascinated with learning how to get faster and stronger than I was, and so I was able to do that.
Yeah.
Are there reputable places out there? Because I see them all the time, and I've taken my kids to some things to go watch, and I watch what people are doing, and I don't see the methodology behind it. I just see a bunch of exercises, and it doesn't seem to me, with my knowledge, which I have some knowledge. I'm not by far not an expert, but I do have a lot of knowledge in it.
Yeah.
That there's no rhyme or reason to what's going on. So I'm always worried that parents on the side want to do their own thing, which I think they should, to encourage it if their child really wants it that bad and wants to train that much, to find those resources themselves, if it's something within their budget as well. But how do you differentiate between somebody that's actually helping your child and somebody that might be harming them or putting them in harm's way to get an injury from doing things the wrong way?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I think that's where parents do need to do their due diligence and their research into the facilities, who owns that facility and what their background is, what their education is. And then even the coaches, like what is their education, their background, their training in those kind of private sector type facilities. There are some really good ones out there, and then there are some very questionable ones out there, like you said, that nowadays they just post all the flashy stuff on social media and it looks really cool, but then they have 4 kids that tore their ACL like the next year. And so for someone like me, I was lucky and blessed enough to have amazing coaches and mentors that I worked under throughout my career. I worked as a sports performance coach for 10 years before I went back to do my doctorate. And I worked with some of the best coaches in the world that I've worked with NFL Combine athletes, have worked with Olympians, have created their own facility. So when I was in grad school, I worked at a place that doesn't exist in San Diego anymore, I don't think. Velocity Sports Performance.
I remember them. They were like one of the original.
They were one of the original ones, yeah.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my first experience. And so I got to learn from some of the best coaches there. Brent Calloway, Roy Holmes, like they are like through and through speed guys. And so I had like huge foundation learning from them. And then I was then blessed by Brett to come on to the Athletes Performance, or Exos. And Exos is one of the biggest worldwide sports performance companies, and they have a methodology. Their owner, Mark Verstegen, like through and through methodology in terms of speed, change of direction, plyometrics, like all the skill components, and then, of course, the weight room component. And so I was in that environment as a performance coach and as a physical therapist, because I worked as a physical therapist for Exos way back in the early 2000s, I guess, maybe, no, 2010s. 2012 was when I went to the Olympics, so that was when I worked at Exos. And so not everybody has had that opportunity to do a mentorship with Exos, but I definitely recommend, if you're looking for a place for your kid to train, that some of the coaches have had that background or philosophy, or train with the original velocity people, Lauren Seagrave, and just there's so many that I've
Are they still in
just.
San Diego area?
They're not in San Diego area anymore. I think really the only velocity left is up in the Redondo Beach area.
Oh, okay.
There might be one in Orange County. They had kind of, I think, just franchise out too big too quickly, and then people that bought into the franchises were a little bit in over their head with, they all just had massive facilities, like tens of thousands of square feet, and it just wasn't sustainable. And so I think then the whole brand dialed back. But Exos as a brand is still very big nationally and internationally, but they're no longer in San Diego. I believe the closest one is in Phoenix, but I'm not 100% sure. Their main ship is in Phoenix, Arizona.
So that on that, well, let me talk about that before I forget
Yeah.
about it, because
Yeah,
I already
totally.
know about the other thing. So let's say, and this is me. This is like my mentality is that I have a facility at home. Like I have a full-on home gym. I know how to use all my stuff. I have all cool gadgets and things that I've trained with, and I train my kids on. But if somebody wants to do that, and like let's say they can't get to a facility, let's say a Velocity or somebody that's not close by, but that has a good reputation, and they want to utilize that. Is there ways that they can get maybe those kind of workouts and bring them down here? Are there people that do? I mean, because you see this stuff all on social media, but again, how reputable are these people? They're doing cool stuff, but cool stuff doesn't always translate to progress, and it doesn't always translate to what your sport is. Like it just looks cool, which, mind you, good job. You did what you were trying to do.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to help my child become the best that they can be athletically to translate and keep them in a safe environment. Are those types of people available out there, and like where you can just kind of get a workout and then bring it home? Because a lot of it nowadays, everything's on video.
Yeah,
like, you can see what the form looks like, and then you can slowly walk your child through the form, and then once they get the form, you can kind of turn them loose to work out.
Yeah, I personally don't know any off the top of my head right now, but I can imagine that there's some strength performance coaches that I've worked with in the past that are now offering like online programming. So they have their templates, they can customize it to each individual athlete. They can share it with you, obviously for a cost, but you could do it at your home, and then you can video your athlete and share it back to the coach. And so then as the parent and the online coach, you can kind of create the best environment at home for your child. I know that those definitely exist, because in the CrossFit space, which is very different, but there's a lot of people that do basically like they hire an online coach that's very reputable, has all the degrees, experience, background, and then they just share videos back and forth, and then they get coached that way as well. And that would be great for the parents that aren't like, maybe like you, that kind of have some coaching background, and you're wanting to teach yourself more and more and more. Some parents are like, I don't have time for that, based on what their full-time job is. That's fine too, but if you have the ability to do a gym in your home and you hire an online coach, and now with Zoom and FaceTime and all of that, like you can just go back and forth that way.
It's so much easier.
For sure, yeah.
I always see it better to invest in that equipment at home so you have it, as opposed to investing it into like a facility, like to go somewhere else, because it's cheaper for me to pay somebody to give me the program.
Yes.
And then have all the equipment that I can use for my lifetime, not just for that child, but the rest of the children if you have them, for you and your wife if you have her, or your spouse, or whatever, your significant other, to be able to train, and you still have it. So that's why I did it, because the more kids we had, the less time we had to go to the gym. Like I just don't have time to go. I haven't had a gym membership probably in over regularly in probably over 15, 20 years.
Yeah, but that was another kind of talking point I had with a coach. He's like, oh yeah, well, all XYZ athletes, they just go to the gym. I'm like, they go to 24-hour fitness.
Yeah, exactly.
So what 16-year-old female athlete, let's just use that for an example, gets up on top of a box in 24-hour fitness and drops off and lands correctly when there's 17 16-year-old boys watching her?
Right.
Zero. So all the things that are important for ACL injury prevention specifically, if we go back to that, but just sports performance in general, they are not getting done at 24-hour fitness. Like your basic leg press, leg extension, hamstring curl, it's all well and good, but that is not going to translate to the soccer field, and it is not going to translate to preventing injury. But having, plyometric boxes in your garage, having a barbell and plates in your garage, like young athletes are more likely to do it under some supervision at home, the proper sports performance stuff, versus doing it at, and I'm not bagging on 24 hours, so maybe we'll talk LA Fitness, EOS 2, any of those types of places, any commercial gym. Yeah, it's not going to happen. Those gyms have the equipment, but young female athletes are not going to go do those things on their own.
It's not the proper environment.
It's not the proper environment, exactly. Yeah, so I've even written some programs for kids or shared my program that I'm doing with a team with the athletes that can't show up. I know they're not doing most of the stuff on that paper. Like maybe if I asked them to send me videos every single time, they're maybe going to do it. But right now, personally, I'm not in a state to like watch everybody's videos every single time. But maybe there's a time and place where I can do that again. But it's not right now.
They're available
yes.
if people want to actually go out and source
yes,
them. Because a
absolutely.
lot of times you're not going to, the club is not going to, like I wouldn't rely on a club
Mm-hmm.
to get, I would rely on a club for specifically what they're good at, which is teaching you their method of their game model and how to work within their game model.
Yeah,
All the other skill sets that come with that, and whatever it may be, whether it's football, baseball, basketball, soccer. When you're at practice, you're learning whatever they're trying to teach you to implement into the game.
Yeah.
And what I think parents need to really understand is anything outside of that, it's really on us.
Yeah.
To go and figure it out. Now, if you're lucky enough to be an athlete and you kind of understand things, great, then you have a better starting point. But even if you don't, everything's out there.
Yes.
Like all you have to do is spend a little bit of time. Like literally, you sat down, especially nowadays with AI, you can literally punch in to ChatGPT and ask it specific questions about what you have. This is my child. They're this age, doing this sport, this kind of thing, and these are the things that I think they need to work on. Where would I start? And it'll just rip off a breakdown for you that you can at least start with. You know what I mean? Like education-wise.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, unfortunately, you're not wrong. I hate saying that because I have a facility and I want people to come see me, work with my staff because, we're all super qualified and very passionate about what we do, right? But I just had a college athlete bring me a program that she literally looked up on AI. She's like, what do you think about this? And I was like, God, I hate to say this out loud, but like, it's very good. It's honestly very good. And she's a college athlete, so I know she's been taught and I've watched her move. She knows how to do all the movements correctly. The only thing I would caution parents with that is maybe the initial session or two of that workout is they have somebody working with the child to make sure that it is getting done correctly. And I think because some kids do take a little while to learn those things. It's
not
new
all
and
kids
it's different.
Are as athletic as other kids.
Yes,
like everyone starts with a different baseline. Some people are just blessed with movement.
Correct.
Other people aren't. They have to learn it, but they can move. They can learn it. They just haven't.
Yeah.
But I think that for those kind of things, it's more when I'm talking about that, I'm not talking about creating. Someone like me can do that because I understand the movements.
Yes.
And I'm just having a program, so I don't have to go and learn it all or figure it all out because times have changed since I trained to what the kids are doing now. But a lot of the fundamental stuff still kind of stands. So I use it as a way where I can grab ideas and then kind of program together and then see what works for my child. But the average parent that doesn't know anything about it, what I say is it gives you a place to start with so you have some reference to think when you're going and questioning people. I would more recommend, even if you go, let's say you can't afford to take your child there 3 times a week, but if you can take them there once a week, so that way they can learn
on their own.
What it is, and you use this as a reference and a tool, but you go for foundational purposes, you go and you start with somebody that can actually monitor your child, make sure they're doing things correctly, and just because you may watch your child jump, but they're not jumping the right way, and they're not hurting themselves now, but all they got to do is do it one time wrong, and then you're in a lot of trouble.
Exactly.
So when I'm referencing it more as a foundational thing, so you have an idea of what you're talking about, and then go out and seek the professionals that can actually help you at whatever budget you have. And you'll find there are a lot of professionals out there that are willing to help people, and they're not all like trying to make as much money as possible.
Yes.
There's a lot of people that are very passionate about what they do, and they'll help you with your time. You know what I mean? You just got to remember to respect that and don't take advantage of it.
Yes, yes. Yeah, and making sure of, their education level too, right? And they're not just like personal trainer that they took a 2-day certification off that you're then going to go pay them a whole bunch of money for, right?
Right,
like,
because they had some fancy stuff on their social media.
Yeah.
Which is probably an athlete that's been trained.
Yeah, I mean,
knows what they're doing.
To be very fair, like my social media is terrible. Like I'm lucky if I post on it once a week. Is all my time is spent with clients in person, one-on-one. Yeah. And so when it comes to posting on social media, I'm like, I might get to something on a Saturday, and like maybe it's just a summary of the week. But then there's other people out there that's how they're making their whole business.
Right.
So, yeah.
You know, I always tell people, because I would say that's a little old school. And
yeah.
the reason why is because
I'm old
it's
school.
not caught. I'm old school too. But here's the thing is that there's so many good tools out there now.
Yes.
You can literally set up a camera. So I just bought this Osmo Pocket 3 camera. You set it on a tripod, and you can put it on your face, and it'll follow you. And you can coach your athlete for an hour in the same spot, and then take that footage, upload it to YouTube.
Yes.
Take that YouTube link, put it into another app, and it'll cut up 30 to 90 second or whatever second clips that you want. And you'll have all that for social media. It's all done, one session, maybe 30 clips.
Yeah, that's amazing.
You can shoot that stuff out. I'll give you the info after. But you can shoot that stuff all day long. And now you are. It's like maybe one day a week. You're taking, like, you do that for the first week. You shoot 5 clients, and now you have 150 pieces of content.
Yeah.
And now you just go and you set
That's
those
amazing.
to automatically go out.
Yeah.
And you're not working hard. You're just doing that every once in a
Yeah,
while. You're able
yeah.
to showcase who you are, the lessons you're doing.
Yes.
And then there's so many different. So I would say I'm going to share some of that stuff with you because it's so implementable, even for the people that don't think they're computer nerds like I am. Like I'm a literal computer nerd. I love that stuff. But it will maximize your business and it'll help your business grow. So people get to see what
and
you're
I
doing.
want to educate people more, especially now with what we've been seeing in this like epidemic of ACLs. Is that I have so much information like in my brain, but I don't have time to get it out to everybody to share. Like I would love to put it all on my social media for free. It's just like finding an app and a camera like this, and it's like, all right, let's do it. Like
Well,
I'll
we
spend
can
3
talk
hours
offline on that.
Saturday, and then you guys can have all my information. Like,
I have some really good ideas.
Nice.
That's why I like having this podcast, is
Yeah.
because I get to interact with people that have amazing skill sets and amazing knowledge, and they just don't know how to get it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so once I show them how to get it out, it's so simple. Like you're like, oh my God, but you didn't have time because you were working.
Yeah.
The
Yes.
whole time you were working.
Yes.
So I get it. I
In
understand.
person. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I wanted to jump back again to the monitoring.
Yes.
So you talked about the monitoring and the GPS. One of the things that, I mean, Jaden now with Surf, I don't know if Surf has their stuff. Do they have monitoring things?
Craig had talked about it. I don't know that they have it club wide, but I know they have some individual tracking in smaller group training sessions.
Because I see Jaden does it with some of the other teams that she trains with. They have it. The professional teams, they have it on there. And then they're always tracking their load. Is there a way without having like these devices? Because another thing, let's say you're tracking the load with your club, but these kids are not just doing trainings with their club.
Yes,
they're doing all kind. My daughter is
exactly.
always training, and
Yeah.
we have to pull her back because you're training too much. You need to relax. You need to calm down. Oh, it's just easy touches. It's nothing like. It's like it doesn't matter. It's still
Yeah,
load.
you still
but
need a day off.
Yeah, you need time to relax. Like go to
Yeah.
the beach, hang out.
Yes.
But is there a good philosophy for parents without having to spend money on like these tracking devices to just say, hey, for every day of work, for every hour of work, you should have X amount of downtime. They should have X amount. Like, what can the parents do to make sure that their kids are working hard enough to get better and to develop, but also making sure that, hey, it's a good rule of thumb to have this many days to recover and what recovery looks like?
Yeah. I don't think there's one answer set in stone. I think, like I mentioned earlier, hopefully we see some more research on that to kind of give us a more direct answer. So if you train 6 hours a week, you need 1 full day off. If you train 20 hours a week, you need 2 full days off. I mean, I would hope at some point, if it's not already out there, that we kind of get an answer for that. I would say basically, hands down, no questions asked, like every athlete needs 1 full day of rest. And that literally means like nothing. Like they're not touching the ball that day. They're not running that day. They're not doing plyos that day. They're not doing strength. I think that would be really, really helpful overall. That's just my one personal professional opinion, because I think that's the problem is in me having conversations with a lot of my athletes, they're like, oh, I'm just going to go out for a 3-mile run on my day off. I'm like, then that's not a day off.
It's training.
You know, it's still training. Right. And so I think if we look at the professional level and then work backwards from there, every professional athlete has 1 day off per week. A soccer athlete, they shut them down one day. And then they have a second day is a lighter active recovery day where they could maybe go for a 2-mile run or an easy 4, 5, 6-mile bike ride. Maybe they get in the pool and they do some touches on the ball. So they have one light active recovery day and they have one full rest day. And then the training on the other days could be anywhere from 1 to 4, 5, 6 hours. And I kind of throw out those higher numbers because gymnastic athlete trains 4 hours a day. 3 hours a day, sometimes 5 hours a day, which is a little too much. But most soccer athletes only train 1.5 to 2 hours a day with their team.
Right.
But then maybe they're adding in an extra hour of strength and plyo or strength and speed. And then on one day, and then on another day, they're adding in an extra hour to 2 hour private training block with their coach or with their parent. And so, 1 to 4 hours training per day, 5 days a week, we're not even talking games yet,
right.
Then we need 1 day off and 1 day of active recovery. That's kind of what it would look like. Again, if we were talking about game days, normally we would only like to see 1 per week, 2 maximum, and they wouldn't be back-to-back days. But we know, all the parents that we're speaking to right now know that is not what it looks like.
Right.
I do love that the higher leagues of the ECNLs and the GAs are trying to do a better job of spreading things out. At least girls are playing 3 games in 4 days. At least there's 1 day off. Right. It's still too much, but it's better than what it used to be. And the way it is in the younger ages where they're playing 6 games in 3 days, it should.
2 games in a day.
Yeah, that's
play in the morning, go get food. That's not good for you.
Right.
And then come back and play another game.
That should never happen, no matter what age you are. But after 12, once you're in 7th grade, that should not happen anymore. Right. They should not be playing more than 2 games in a week. And if they are, you're just setting them up for failure long term.
Eventually, their body's going to give out.
Exactly.
In some way, shape, or form.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
that's when injury happens.
But so going back to the question earlier, I would say hands down 1 full rest day and look at your week by week and pick the day where that's going to work. If they played Saturday, Sunday, then Monday should be the off day. And normally a lot of club teams that is an off day, but not always because of field availability and schedules. And then you've got to plug it in somewhere else for sure.
So after I tore my Achilles playing football as an older guy, again, another injury from that. But when I tore it is when I started to research about the calf and the Achilles and how to stretch it and how to get it at different levels of incline and before working. Mm-hmm. So now I have a way to stretch out and make sure that I'm stretching that particular tendon to not get injured.
Yeah.
Are there things specifically that athletes can do, all athletes, and maybe even some individuals like just a soccer team, that they can do on a regular when they get out there? Because a lot of times when you go out there, I always have Jaden, I'm like, look, I want you to do this, this, this. And mind you, she does none of it. In one ear, out the other.
Yes.
But I'm telling you to do these things because I want you to get your body warmed up so that your ankles and all your things are ready and they're warm to go play. Because a lot of times when they're not warm is when you see injury.
Yes.
What are some things that athletes can do on a regular basis and these things don't even take long. You know they don't take long. They take 5 minutes.
Yeah.
That they can do to get themselves warmed up outside of their regular team warm up.
Yeah.
Or what they're doing.
Yeah. I think that's one of the biggest missing links is that I wish that they were being done in the team warm up and all the athletes were doing it together because they should all be doing it to help prevent injury, 1, 2, prep to actually be prepared to play. But when you watch a general team warm-up, it's very poor. They're just going through the motions. They're not doing it correctly. They're not doing it to actually prepare themselves. And so basically my rule of thumb for any of our athletes returning to play after ACL, they have a structured warm-up that they're supposed to do in addition to the team warm-up. The unfortunate thing is all the kids should be doing that exact warm-up, but basically anything from some band work for hip activation, some body weight, single leg RDL, which helps with glute hamstring activation, also helps with balance, some lunging, multi-directional lunging, and then some hops, some single leg hops to stick, like hop, hop, stick, sideways, lateral, medial, diagonal, so baby bounce, basically. Right. Just working on getting their foot activated, ankle, and then it works all the way up into the glute. So if they were just doing those things for a solid 10 minutes, if every athlete did band work before a game, meaning band around the knees, doing lateral walks, forward walks, backward walks, some standing clams, using their band for some hip flexion activation, I think that would be really, really helpful for sure. But like I said, if we could just get the whole group doing it, because what happens is when one or two is doing it on the side, they feel embarrassed. They feel like they're being judged. They feel like they're being like kind of like, well, why is so-and-so doing that? Like, they look stupid. Well, you don't look stupid. You're actually doing the correct thing to prepare your body to play. So I hope that all my ACL athletes that are back playing are still doing the warm-up that they learned that they should be doing. That, again, I do wish everybody was doing. But, you know, and or more parents encouraging, like, guys, it's fine for you to be the odd man out. You're the odd man out that's going to hopefully stay healthy. Right? These things are preparing you to succeed.
Every time I got an injury, whatever the protocol was for warm-up, I've been doing that ever since. And I don't have any more injuries. Like, I just do those warm-ups. I mean, now at 50, my warm-up's about 45 minutes. But I feel great when I go into the game. And then my cool down is about 20, 25 minutes. Because I'm preparing, and for me, it's like 3 or 4 days it takes me to get back to normal. I've been running and
it's
moving.
different because of our age again. But the same, like you just touched on, cool down. Kids never cool down. They literally take their cleats off, throw them in the bag, get in the car, leave.
Unless you count a TikTok dance or routine.
Jaden's really good at that, isn't she?
That's why I brought it up, because I'm like, we're sitting on the sideline ready to go. My wife, we packed all the chairs, we got out of the way, we're waiting, and I'm like, where's she at? And you look over, and there's like 2 or 3 girls, and one's filming, and the other 2 are dancing. And I'm like, what are we doing here?
I mean, to a small extent, that might be better than just sitting down right away and not moving. So we could give her a little credit there. But no, I mean, just some more static stretching post. The research is like 50-50. Does it work? Doesn't it work? Well, it cools your body down while you're still moving. And so then you're not tightening up. You're still maintaining and or improving a little bit mobility. You can focus on specific limitations that individuals might have, whether it's their hip mobility, their ankle mobility, maybe their low back. You know, each athlete maybe doesn't have the same cool down, or maybe they do. General things are not always bad. Specific things are better, but general things aren't always bad. And so warm up, I would say priority. Cool down, also important. But then that goes into nutrition, post-training, hydration, like all of those things, sleep, priority. We can talk about that. I think that's a huge missing link.
So I have a 14-year-old son right now, and he's in 8th grade, and I'm preparing him for high school. So we had to sit down and have the conversation about what it is we're trying to do, what are we trying to accomplish, and how we're going to get there. And a lot of that was talking about priority. Like my son, so I'm average height, my wife's 5 foot. So my kids are average, hopefully. Like my son, I hope my kids would be taller. Than me, but they're not. My boys especially. Girls, fine. Jaden's perfect height for her sport. But I tell him, I go, there's only 2 things that you can control. You can't control genetics. Those are just in you. I go, but you can control how much you sleep and how much you eat. And I go, those are the 2 things that have to do with growth from what I've read about that are going to help you the most. Is what you put in your body and recovery. So if you do those things, which you can control, you're going to maximize whatever it is God gave you. Like you're going to maximize it. If you go the other way, you're not going to. So now my son, and I don't wake him up until he wakes up. I just try to get him to bed at a reasonable hour. Summer just started, so I give him a week.
Little leeway.
Give you a week to get into the groove of summer, and then we got to get back on a schedule. But what would you recommend in terms of sleep for athletes, in terms of like nutrition for athletes, and things like that are more really more for the parent to start and kind of instruct and to have their kids have the best opportunity to get as good as they can get?
Yeah, definitely. I think the biggest thing is just trying to create some general guidelines, because if you force it, they're not going to want to do it and they're going to push back. But I think the number one priority of all of those things, we talked about the 1 day of rest, but just as important as that, if not the most important, is overall sleep. And it should be 7 to 9 hours. I mean, the 8 is still that sweet spot. 6 isn't great. 10 is amazing, but how many high school athletes have 10 hours with in the summer? Yes, sure, maybe, but reality is, schoolwork. How many AP classes are they taking? How many hours are they spending in their sport? Like 10 hours is not realistic. Right. But 7 is, and 8 should be attainable. But it's kind of setting the routine of, I'm going to go to sleep at 10 or 11 every night, and I'm going to wake up at 6 or 7 every day, and then there's your 7 to 8 hours of sleep. And just sticking to it is like forcing yourself to go to bed at those hours and get off your phone. But then after that, nutrition-wise, I mean, I have a little bit of education in that area, but it's not my area of expertise. So I always kind of default to other people, experts in that space. But the most important thing that I see is lacking is athletes getting protein in after training, and good quality protein. And maybe it's just a protein shake. That shouldn't be the first choice. First choice is always real food, chicken, beef, ground turkey, fish, getting that in within 30 minutes to an hour of training. But maybe you live an hour from training, which is very much a reality in San Diego, right? Kids travel from all over for different teams and clubs. So get a protein shake right after. Get a beef jerky stick, even Greek yogurt, like if just anything really right after practice, something quality to get you by until you can get like a real full meal in. I think that's the biggest thing is most of the athletes are under eating protein specifically. And then we all know they're probably overeating sugar. So trying to decrease that in most cases. But in some cases, it's just like they need to eat. Like actually, you need to eat food. Doesn't matter what it is. Like a lot of them are undernourished, caloried. I don't know how to say that one properly. And so for some kids, picky eaters, it's just like, just get them to eat. Like that's also like a really big thing too.
Yeah, I actually have a bit of a background in nutrition. So our biggest thing is protein with every meal. Yeah. Making sure you're right on with having post-workout protein so your body can get in. We use a shake because we can use whey and casein protein, so you can use fast-acting and slow-acting protein. Yeah. That you can get something that's working in your body now, something's going to work it a little bit later. Yeah. But also food as well. And I mean, for Jaden, so for my two kids, so I have two athletes left that are still participating in sports. Jaden, she's now at the point where I think things are getting serious for her, so she's understanding those things you're talking about. We've always preached it, but again, in one ear, out the other. No matter how good you are as a coach or a parent, your kids are going to listen to different messengers oftentimes than you. Correct. It's the same message.
Almost always.
Just a different message, which I'm fine with. Doesn't matter to me. That's how I was kind of raised. Like, as long as you get the message, I'm cool. Yes. But she now is starting to go to bed earlier. Like, you know, we'll get home from something and it's like 9 o'clock and like, where's Jaden? She went to bed. Yeah. She's already asleep because she has to get up. She has training. She knows she has to get up for training, so she'll do that on her own. In terms of my son, for food-wise, my wife, I meal prep all of my foods, so my wife now meal preps all of his foods. So now he has summertime. When she's gone, she works a few days a week, but now he wakes up and his meals are there. There's no excuse. And I think the balance is really figuring out which proteins your kids like. Yes. And just make those. Yeah. It doesn't have to be like an eclectic list of different stuff. Right. My kid likes steak or likes chicken this way, and we're going to make him 5 of those bowls, and he's going to have those in the fridge whenever he's ready to eat.
To just grab and go, too.
Yeah, so you can just eat it. Like this morning before I left, I told my son, I let him sleep. I woke him up. I said, hey, it's time to get up. He probably got about 10, 11 hours of sleep. And he's growing, so it's great. Yes. So I was like, get up, go have breakfast. And so he goes downstairs, takes a shower, go downstairs, has his breakfast. And so I know at least he's eaten, and that started. But I think that's really important that parents need to understand. Like, the only things you can control, there's only so many things you can control when it comes to being an athlete. And in terms of the size of the athlete and the strength is, you know, the food that they eat, the time that they get to sleep, the amount that they work out, and like you said, how they recover and what they use, because you can also use food as a recovery as well.
Yes. That's why the post-training meal is so important. That's part of starting the recovery process, like rebuilding the muscle that you just broke down while you were training.
Right, and that's like just in educating parents understanding like that's how the body works. So when your kid is sore, they need to eat because their body's breaking stuff down.
I'm big on like high quality foods and minimal ingredients and all of that kind of thing. And I'm personally very picky about that because of different things I've trained for over my career and sports I participated in. But in the end of the day, like, just get your kids something that they'll eat, you know? Right. Like, yes, the better quality it is, the better it is for them. But if they don't like that stuff, find something that they'll just get in.
It's better to eat something than nothing. Yes. But also, it's funny what I realized as I started meal prepping for myself. And it's funny because my wife and I, we love to eat different places, like, as everybody does. We just are spots. So we like this, we like that. Yes. We just started learning, and everything is online. Yeah. We just started learning all these recipes, and then now we know exactly what's in it, what the seasonings are, what we can take out. If this has sugar, brown sugar, we'll take that out and see what it tastes like. What can we substitute to give it a similar taste, but less calories, less sugar? It's so much less expensive to meal prep your food than it is to go and eat out. Yeah. Like, people think it's cheaper to eat out. It's
no
not.
way. Especially not anymore. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
My daughter had her wisdom teeth taken out today, so last night she wanted to go have like a final meal before, my oldest daughter. And so we went to a taco shop.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's like a burrito was like $17.
Right. It's
like,
insane.
Oh my God. The whole time there I can't even enjoy it because it's so expensive.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, groceries have gone up and eggs have gone up, but it's significantly less. And
But the amount of
it only
protein and
takes
stuff
an
you can
hour to
get.
meal prep for a week.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
So that's what it is for me. I do it, and I'll do 20 meals. So it's 10 days, 2 meals, and then in the nighttime, my wife makes what she's going to make for dinner, or I'll make myself something, and that's just the one meal that I'm responsible for with the snacks in between.
Yeah.
But it's so much easier to do. Like, you just kind of got to figure it out.
Yes.
And I think that a lot of times parents think it's just easier to buy them something, but you really have no control over what's in that food.
Yes.
And I think it's more important to make sure that you're in control of the ingredients.
Exactly.
Especially
for sure.
nowadays. You know what I mean? So much stuff in that you don't even know what it is.
That's right. That's what I'm saying.
I'd like to know, from your perspective, like what are some of the common, I'm assuming you've worked with a lot of high-level athletes.
Yes.
So what are some of the commonalities of athletes that you've worked with that have had very good careers and very long careers with not as much injury? Like, are there specific people that you can recall, like, hey, I've worked with this person or I've seen this person and they rarely get injured? If so, like, what are the common things that you think that they do? Is it just a collection of the things we talked about, or are there, routines? Or like, what would you say those are?
In general, I would say it's definitely a collection of the things that we talked about. Back to genetics, some of them are just genetically blessed. I've had a couple, one or two that I can think of immediately that they didn't do any of the things we talked about, and they were still injury-free. So you'll have some of those kind of freaks, and we're all jealous of those. So, that's not really reality for most of us. But most of them have a very structured routine. They, like we were just talking about, they go to bed at a certain hour, they wake up at a certain hour. And then they eat their first meal right away. And then they go to training. And then they do whatever their preferred recovery process is after training. For some, it was massage. For some, it was things like the Normatec boots. For some, it was cold tub or cold plunging. For some, it was just like a mobility routine. I think they all had their own thing that they found worked for them. Somehow it was a combination of those recovery things. And then getting either their work done or their school done, and then, fueling themselves properly throughout the day, going to bed, and repeating again. So it just was like what seemed like boring, routine, mundane.
They had a plan.
But they had a plan, and the plan worked for them, and it led to very minimal injuries for them with maximal or optimal output, for sure. Right. And then I also have seen kind of the complete opposite, especially with my time in China working with the Olympic athletes. But they didn't have the education that we have in America. And that was part of what we were trying to bring to them, was like how to train properly, how to recover properly, how to rehab. Like they didn't have sports medicine. They didn't have physical therapy. And so on the complete opposite side, those athletes were so insanely broken. It was like, how do you even participate in your sport? Their fuel is super, super poor, meaning the quality. There's so much air pollution over there that there's so much like terrible stuff that is probably fed to their animals that it gets passed down to the athletes, right? And they were very successful at a very high level, some of them. And if they weren't, they just went on to the next because they just had such a giant pool of athletes. It was just like move on to the next. But I can't imagine if those athletes had the education that our American athletes have and they had the resources that ours have, like they would be absolutely blowing us out of the water because they were on the complete opposite end of the spectrum of the very high level performing athletes that I've seen be successful here. And then you have your opposite outliers of those athletes that, because I've had a few of these, they do everything right and then they get injured. And then they do everything right and then they get injured again. And you're like, it's just not fair. Like those kids that work so hard and they put in so much extra work and then it's still just like injury after injury after injury. You're like,
and sometimes
what else can they do?
Genetics.
Sometimes
It's
that's
like their
genetics,
body.
exactly.
So my oldest son, football player, like he loved football, but his body's not built for that sport. Like he broke his arm, he broke his leg twice.
Yeah.
Like it's like you're just not built for
It's
that
just
sport.
bad
and you put in all
luck.
kinds
Yeah,
of work,
too.
and you're actually good at it.
Yeah.
But when you put yourself in the sport, whatever that sport may be, the movement of it, or for him, he was a quarterback, and everyone's going after him, and you're not the biggest guy. When you hit the ground and someone twice your size lands on you, something's got to give.
Something breaks.
Something's going to break.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of times parents just need to understand too is that not every kid, no matter how much work you put in, you can never determine what that outcome is going to be. It's going to be what it's, and that's why I always tell parents to say, look, you have to be okay with the outcome being whatever it's going to be.
Yeah.
What you have to really focus more on is what you're doing to try and obtain
set them up for success.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's more about the habits you're creating. It's more about the disciplines you're creating. Those are the things that are going to teach your athlete to be successful. Not successful in sport only.
Yeah.
Successful
Yeah,
in life. Whatever
Yeah.
they do. They're going to have the X factor that I would probably say 90% of the population doesn't have, which is discipline.
Yeah.
If you just had discipline
Yeah.
and consistency at anything,
Yeah.
you're going to be better than 9 out of 10 people.
Yeah. I just saw a statistic recently just talking about setting them up for life and speaking specifically to the female athlete. I think it was 83% of like female-owned businesses, the entrepreneurs were former athletes because they had that direction, they had that discipline, they had that structure. And so then it made them very successful as business owners later in life. I happen to be one of those. So
It just I mean, if you think about it, it's so simple.
Yeah.
It's you have an idea, you have to figure out how to execute it, so you have to get the plan, and then you have the fortitude and the grit to keep working until it happens.
yeah.
And you just don't give up.
Right.
You just keep going.
Right,
And then
right.
eventually either it's going to work or you're going to
Yeah.
find out maybe I just don't want this to work. Maybe it's not for me and I find something else. Then you go throw that same exact mentality into something else
Yeah.
and be successful in that.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
think that's why I think sports in general is so good for everybody should be playing a sport.
Yeah.
And I'm huge on, I love individual sports because I think that there's a lot of value to those, but I'm just so huge on team sports because it's just so I think you get so much more out of it. It's more relatable to like real life.
Yeah.
Right? You have
Yeah.
to work in a
Working
team
with
everywhere
others.
you are.
Uh-huh.
You have to. I mean,
Yeah.
we're in a business right here where there's a team of people outside. They're all doing something collectively to create one outcome. Like that's the way the world works.
Yeah,
So you kinda
exactly.
have to do
But
it.
I think the big message for parents is like, you can tell your child all these things we're talking about right now, and it might be, like you said earlier, in one ear, out the other. So then it's finding individuals that can also help educate them on all these things that they're more likely to listen to. And it's maybe a one-time thing. So for example, I hosted a sports nutritionist at our facility last month because I always hear all the athletes like, I didn't eat breakfast today. Oh, I didn't want to eat at school today. Oh, this and that. And I'm like I mentioned earlier, I'm not the expert, but I wanted to bring an expert in to educate. We invited parents and the kids because the parents need to hear it, but the kids need to hear it from an expert.
Right.
And so it was $20 to host to attend the seminar, and they got
nothing.
so
$20 is
much
much value
so
for
much
$20.
value out of that. And it was also specific to sport. So it was what to eat before, how long to eat before, what to eat during if your exercise or your training is so long, what to eat post. And of course, the biggest thing was protein, like we mentioned. But they were hearing it from an expert. They just weren't hearing it from mom and dad being like, this is what you need, this is what you need. The injury prevention stuff. Last year, I hosted a massive ACL injury prevention seminar. I had over 100 parents and kids attend. And last year, I did it for free. And the message was just like talking about the warm-ups, talking about the exercises, talking about the strength training, because I want the kids to hear it from me, not just their parent, like, you have to go do this, you need to go do that. They need to do it on their own with a little bit of direction and encouragement, right? But they need to want it if they want to be successful.
And that, it's funny that you say that because that is literally the basis of my program. It's just about figuring out what your child wants, not what I want, what my child wants. And then to define the lanes. Like, here's your goal. This is what it takes to get there. This is what's expected of you. You're going to determine that. And this is what you can expect from me. I'm going to determine that. And then we're going to shoot for the goal. And it's so simple. But I think a lot of times is parents there's never clarity in it. So everyone's just kind of running around doing their own thing with no idea of what the goal is, like what the end result's going to be. And then so if you don't know what you're chasing, if you don't know the destination, how can you ever get there? Like, you can never.
But I think it's important to have that conversation with your child too, right? Because some are going to be like your daughter, Jaden, who's kind of shooting for the highest level. And some are like, I just want to play high school soccer. Like, it doesn't matter. We don't all have to make the national team. We don't all have to get a pro contract, but we all need to enjoy what we're doing. Like, there should be no, like, you shouldn't hate going to practice every day. You shouldn't hate your coach. You shouldn't hate your trainer. You should enjoy every environment that you're in, and it should be a positive one.
I think a lot of times when you see what you just described, you see it in the kids quitting later on as
Yes.
they get older.
Yeah.
And especially I see it in soccer. And I saw it when Jaden was coming up. Because I had friends that had older daughters, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere they just stopped playing.
Yeah.
And you're like, she's so good.
Yeah.
How did that happen? And but then as you grow as a parent and you see it more, you're like, oh, I totally understand why that is.
Yeah.
And for us, we just always kind of like let them lead, because my wife and I were athletes and we did what we did, and it went where it went. It wasn't where I wanted to go, but it's what happened in my life. It was my journey, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But I don't want my kids to think that I want them to be what I was or whatever. I want you to do whatever you want to do. I had my time.
Yeah.
Now my time is
Yeah.
to be dad, and here's my role.
Yeah.
And let's figure out what you want to do. And I'm excited to help you get to whatever you want to do, whether it's going all the way or whether it's just, like you said, just being making the high school team.
Yeah. I mean, my parents had zero athletic successes in their life. And I've had a few, not because of what they presented with, but 1,000% what I wanted and what I enjoyed. I was never pressured because they didn't know anything about sport. Like they never competed in sport.
That's the best thing.
Yeah, I guess because
It can be.
Yeah, I mean, so it worked out in that sense. But yeah, it's each person's journey, each young athlete's journey, and just supporting it as best you can, for sure.
Yeah. That's cool. Well, God, I that was a ton of information.
I
It
know.
was good stuff. I would say there's one more thing that I wanted to talk to you about, which had to do with recovery. So you have, and I wouldn't say you specialize in ACLs, but you have a lot of them.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
So what are some things? I came out of surgery and I had a program. I have all this technology of things that I wanted to do, and I was always told the most important thing was mobility, getting it moving around to break up that scar tissue, and getting up on my feet as soon as I could get up on my feet. Not running and doing stuff, but just being able to, bear my weight and stuff like that. So as someone who sees a lot of people that have ACLs, and we're seeing them prevalent around the county and around the country, like what should parents be focusing on once they're coming out? Like what are the most important things that they need to do to give their athlete the best chance of recovering quickly and recovering fully?
Yeah. I mean, the most important thing is obviously I'm going to be a little bit physical therapy.
Right.
And literally within the first 2 days. I mean, almost every ACL that we see in our facility is 2 to 3 days post-op. And initially working on getting their leg as straight as possible as soon as possible, starting with the bending right away. It's painful, but it's necessary. And getting their quad firing. If we can get those 3 things in the first day, it's crucial, and it sets them up for so much success much more quickly. And then moving around on it, putting weight on it, unless they, in certain cases with ACL, if they've had a meniscus repair, then the early weeks are a little bit slower because you have to respect that repair of the meniscus. But I just had 2 ACL athletes in the last 2 weeks literally walk in my door without their brace, without a sleeve, without anything, 4 and 5 days post-surgically. But it was because they also prepared for the surgery with prehab. They were
getting the VMO strong.
They were getting their quad strong. They had their legs straight. They were doing a very thorough program at home, both of them 5 days a week. Yeah. And with my direction and my help, but they were also doing it on their own. So they had the outline, they had the structure, but they were doing it, and it set them up so well that they were both walking without crutches very well, not with compensation, one 4 days after surgery and the other one 5 days after surgery. Both of them, no meniscus repairs. So the other one's meniscus repair, you're looking at maybe 3 to 4 weeks until you can get weight bearing, but still the sooner the better within, post-surgical expectations. But the biggest thing is movement, right. Hands down. Sitting still in your bed, not moving it is just setting you up for disaster.
Yeah, that scar tissue build.
Going to a physical therapist that's not moving you and not putting their hands on you and not getting rid of swelling and not getting your quad firing is not the right physical therapist for you as an athlete. You need to find somebody that specializes in that, or your results and your return to play are going to take a long, long time, for sure, if they even happen successfully.
I remember my first knee injury, it was a meniscus tear. Mm-hmm. It took me longer to recover from a meniscus tear because I let it go for so long. And I was walking around with a peg leg.
Yes.
Before I didn't do any rehab
compensating
stuff,
and
I was maybe in my early 20s, early 30s.
And the philosophies back then too were just put in a straight leg brace for 6 weeks. We don't do that anymore. Yeah. And if we do, I'm just we're not going to do that. Let's get this thing moving gradually, safely, like smartly, but there's very few instances where you want to keep something completely still. Some fractures, yes. Right. Non-surgical fractures, yes. But there's very few cases. In most every situation, it's like, get it moving, get the swelling out, get the muscles activated.
People know there's gonna be pain.
Oh yeah,
it's gonna hurt.
Definitely.
I remember when they reshaped my Achilles, I didn't have surgery. So I had a full tear because it ruptured a certain percentage, but there was still a strand connected. So it reattached itself.
Nice.
Which I didn't even know was a thing.
Yes.
Because I had it at 42 at the time. I was like, I don't want to go under if I don't have to go under. I'm not, gonna be like this peak athlete anymore. I'm good with what I can do. And it was just this fat block of scar tissue. And they took those metal knives.
Not a good feeling. Not a good feeling.
But it's part of the process.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, like the Achilles kind of reattaching itself, there is a new study that's come out that is showing that the ACL can also reattach itself.
Really?
There was a huge study out of Australia where they basically did this bracing protocol where they put the knee in a 90-degree flex position. So basically the knee was like this. Yeah. They put it in the brace for 4 to 6 weeks. I think it was 4. So this was a situation where they didn't move it, but it was very intentional because it brought the ends of the ACL back together so they can reattach. The problem is if you don't do that and you're just walking around, every time you're like moving your knee joint, the end is pulling apart. The end is pulling apart. So it never has the time to reattach. So they put him in the brace. I think the average age was 14 to 20 years old. So it was in a younger athlete population. It might have went up to 24 years old. And it worked in 90+% of the people they did this protocol in returned to high level sport. And so it's something interesting to look into going forward. One of the sports medicine physicians down at Rady here in San Diego is starting some people on this protocol, and he's having good success so far. Personally, I haven't seen one yet or rehabbed. I've educated some parents on this as an option, especially in my opinion, the younger ones, the 12, 13, 14-year-olds. It's like
their bodies can repair so
fast, and like prevent a surgery that you can now. It's shown to heal, and the athletes return into high level sport. I believe in the Australian study there was an athlete or two that even returned to like a professional level sport. That went through this protocol. Same time frame. So that's like, you would think it would be faster, but it's not. So the overall time frame, by the time you went through this bracing protocol and then slowly working out of it and then returning to like the rehab, strength, running, change of direction, is still like a 9 to 12 month process. So it's still a long process, but you avoided a surgery. And so
you didn't have to graft anything.
You don't have to graft anything. You don't have to worry about anything else. As with a repaired, or I should say reconstructed ACL, the risk of re-tear is the same as if you braced it.
And that's what got me. So when I tore my Achilles, it was on a Sunday, and I was at the doctor's on Monday, and I had surgery scheduled for Thursday. Like, that's just how it works, right? You know what the deal is.
That's the standard protocol.
He did the test in the calf. It's torn. Like, we need to repair it. That was protocol. On Wednesday, I did what every normal person does. I posted it on social media to let the world know what was going on with my Achilles. And a buddy of mine, he messaged me and he goes, "Hey, are you getting surgery?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Call me." So I called him up and I started talking to him, and he goes, "Dude, my buddy didn't get surgery. I got surgery. He was healed faster than me and is back to normal. I ended up having to have 3 surgeries."
That's a risk. Totally.
It's at an area where there's not as much blood flow and there's a lot of complications that can happen. And I was like, "Well, what information do you have that I can read? Because I have a thing scheduled for Thursday." So I remember contacting the thing, and I realized he sent me those articles, and I follow this guy on YouTube. He was in Australia, and he was just a basketball player, played for fun, tore his Achilles, didn't get it rehabbed, and showed the whole process over a year's time of his thing, and he's back to normal. But the thing that got me was I started reading the research papers, and the re-rupture rate was, I think, 5% either way.
As
long as you got up and moving, and like those basic things, if you did those things, the re-rupture rate was pretty much the same.
Equal,
And so at that point I said, "You know what? I'm I'm not trying to be like, I'm still going to play, but
Yeah.
it sounds like I'm going to take a chance because I don't want to
Yes.
have another surgery. I don't want to have complications. And I don't want to be put under if I don't have to be put under.
Yeah.
That's always a risk.
Yeah.
And it worked out.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have a baby calf now. It didn't grow back like the other one, but functionality wise, I was
It's
fine.
full. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. Yeah, I think that's where the decision, gets difficult with the 16, 17-year-old athletes that maybe already have committed to that D1 scholarship.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the gold standard is still the reconstruction.
Right.
And primarily the patellar tendon bone graft reconstruction with a few other ones being super successful as well. So at that stage, it's like, maybe I go the surgical route. But if you're on the younger end of the spectrum and you haven't even barely gotten to high school sports yet, why not brace it, let it heal on its own, and let your body at 12, 13 heal super fast and just get back
You have
to
age and those cells on your side.
Yes,
that us
yes,
older
yes.
people don't really have anymore.
Yeah, I think there's a reason they didn't do this research product on 40, 45, 50-year-olds and ACLs repairing themselves. They probably don't. But in the younger population, they can if you do it
Makes
correctly.
sense.
Yeah.
I've never heard.
No,
I've
it's
never
very
heard of
new.
an
I learned
ACL.
about it, I want to say last year.
That's wild.
Yeah,
to me.
through
But
through
awesome
Rady. Yeah.
At the same time.
I know.
Like, so
I
awesome.
know. I hope I get to see one soon and like rehab them to kind of see it through.
See it through.
Yeah. Yeah. That would be cool.
Well, I had a really great talk.
Yes, thank you.
I learned so much. And that's the funny thing about having this podcast, the best thing about it for me is I learn every time I come in, I just get to be a sponge.
Yeah,
and just ask, you say something, I'm like, oh, I'm curious about that. Tell me more about that.
Yeah.
And then it educates all of us. All the parents can see what they're looking for, and it just gives you information. It just sparks a way for you to kind of prepare.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for this episode to come out when it does, because people are going to be able to see, and especially young ladies, because I think, like you said, percentage-wise, they're tearing their ACLs a lot
unfortunately
more.
too much.
And if they can find ways to kind of get ready to prepare themselves for it, I think it'd be super beneficial.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.